Good morning, site members and guests. This is Sandy Masters, and I'm super excited to be able to have Tom Coleman with us today for our first site webinar of the year. We're going to get started in a few minutes. We still have people joining the call. It's a couple minutes prior to the hour. Welcome, and thanks for being here early. And I see some familiar names out here. Hello. Hi, Robert and Susan. Great. And oh, Brenda, there you are. Hi, Clara. Good to see you guys. Hi, Linda. Good to see you too. Hey, do me a big favor. We have some lots of planning to do. We like to do 9 webinars a year. This is the first. I need your help. Do you know someone that's doing some really interesting work that they have a case study or something they could share in a site webinar? Our members love real world examples. If you know of a topic or a presenter that you think we should bring to site in a site webinar, enter that into the question box. I appreciate your help in helping us plan and organize our webinars for this year. All of our webinars are recorded and posted to the event archives, and members have access to that. And guests who are here today, I encourage you to become a site member, and then you'll have access to all of the site webinars we've done in the past. So the planning for our conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota this year is underway. So mark your calendar for June 16th through the 22nd. We're doing a Train the Trainer in conjunction with the site annual conference. And we hope to see you there. There's another Train the Trainer later in the year in Chicago, Illinois. That's the check back to the events calendar. Also, the events calendar will be posting the site webinars, the dates and details as we get them. Very good. Thank you, Barb. All right, Barb is stepping up. She's got a topic that she thinks that our members will be able to learn something, and I appreciate you stepping up, Barbara. So we're looking for other people too. Use the question box now. Enter your idea for a topic. Maybe you want to be a presenter too, like Barb. Thank you so much. I'll be calling you after this session. Let's do a few housekeeping items. We still have people showing up, but we want to make sure you know how to interact today. We use GoToWebinar. You're watching the presentation in the viewer window. There's a little orange arrow on the right-hand side of your screen that will open and close this viewer window. I always tell people to uncheck the auto hide control panel under the view menu at the top, because then this panel will stay open. You can quickly enter your questions. We're going to be addressing questions about halfway through the session and then at the end, but please do enter them as you think of them. During today's session, there'll be some demonstrations, and we really want to make sure we get all of your questions answered. Looks like most of you are listening through mic and speakers. All of you come into the session on mute, so you don't have to worry about your background noise. However, we do have the ability to unmute you, so if you're using a headset, that's usually best. If your VoIP audio is degraded, you might consider switching to the telephone, because it might be something with the upload-download speed on your network, and you can easily do that by clicking on the audio panel. There's a plus sign, and then switch to telephone, and you want to make sure you enter that 2-digit PIN, which will allow me to unmute you if you did want to ask a question at the end of the session. This is where you're going to enter your questions, and this is also where I asked you to enter your ideas for a site webinar presenter, someone who's doing some great work and you think that they would be able to share something with site members. And then the raise hand feature, let me see a show of hands right here. Everyone who is attentive and ready to go. Linda, Susan, Samuel, Kim, Brenda, Barbara, awesome. You guys are great. Thank you. Everyone's raising your hand. We might do a quick poll using the raise hand feature. And if you need to get my attention, I'll go ahead and lower everyone's hands now. If you need to get my attention, you can use the raise hand feature. Excellent. So the society, we do have some guests here, so I want to be able to share with the guests today. The Society of Insurance Trainers and Educators is excited that you're here with us. We want you to consider ways to get involved with Scite, whether it's by joining Scite as a member, or if you're a member, finding a way to grow more with Scite by getting involved. Scite has unlimited benefits of membership, as you can see on the screen, and we'd love for you to get connected today. Scite is a great place to network with people in similar roles as yours. Professional networking has a way of becoming a great tool when you least expect it. The relationships you sow today may yield success in the future. Visit our website, insurancetrainers.org, for membership information and any contacts. The board is listed there as well, and we hope you will join us. Today, I'm super excited to be able to welcome Tom Coleman, who is a past Scite conference attendee and presenter. Tom really got involved with the Scite conference, not only presented, but he was in other sessions and contributing, and we're so fortunate that he is back to share his expertise about what a lot of people are experimenting with, is what to do with video. So I'm going to go ahead and change presenter control to you, Tom. Thank you so much for sharing your experience today, and I'm looking forward to learning a few tips from you.
All right, let me switch over here. Now, for some reason, I ended up closing my thing here, but I will just go. Okay, I'm just gonna flip over to my PowerPoint real quick. There it is. All right, so we're not going to be in PowerPoint very long. So I'm Tom Coleman, and thank you for having me. Today, what we'll do is we'll talk about interactive video. So what we'll do is we'll look at a few examples. So generally what I do is, I see some pretty cool interaction. It doesn't, I'm in the e-learning side of things. And so, when you're online, there's all sorts of games. There's mobile apps, if you're on your phone or tablets. And then there's, all sorts of, like, news sites will have interactions. And so you'll see all these interactive things. And then, one of the questions I always ask is, that's really cool. How can I do that for my e-learning courses? And so one of the things that's kind of been becoming more popular is interactive video. And so there are a lot of really expensive interactive video apps or creation tools out there, these services that you have to buy into, and usually, in the advertising industry. And so, for most of us, that's not an option. So the question is, if I have this e-learning tool, what can I do to make that interactive? So I want to use video. What can I do with the video and to work with the tools that I have? Before we get started, though, let me give you some contact info. And I'll actually post, or Sandra will send these things out if you want to contact me. I know a lot of times, especially with interactive video, is there are a lot of technical questions, so if you have additional questions, go ahead and send me an email. It says my screen is paused. Do you see
Yeah, so you want to go ahead and on the grab handle, there's a little pause button. You can unpause it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Let me change presenter control back to me.
Yeah.
And then when I change it back to you, it'll automatically be unpaused. So I'll change it back to you.
Sorry about that. There's
no worries, no worries.
Issues with these things. Okay. So you should see my PowerPoint screen here.
Yep.
All right. I must have clicked something while I was talking. Okay, so I won't move my mouse. So that's a good learning tip if you do webinars. Don't move your mouse and just click around. So anyway, there's some contact info. So if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to send them my way. I write the Rapid eLearning blog. Even though I work for Articulate, I try to keep the blog somewhat, vendor neutral or tool neutral. So there's a lot of, good e-learning stuff, especially if you're just getting started with e-learning. I try to kind of write for my mental picture is always the person who's getting started. So you've got my contact info, and let's talk a little about video real quick. So, one of the challenges with video is, see, it paused my screen again.
So you should be able to click on the slide anywhere, and then you should be able to, like if you're using a second screen, sometimes it locks it up.
Yeah, it's not. just pause it. Well, let me do this. I'm gonna get out of PowerPoint because it's just the slides anyway. I can talk through that. And I'll go right to the application. There must be something with my PowerPoint that's causing that. Okay, I'm just going to jump into my browser. So you should see my browser.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to drop this link into the chat window. Or maybe Sandra can do that. I think I can. Okay, I'm going to drop this into the chat window. So this is a workshop link, and I put together some of the examples and things I show you. You'll see in here. So if you want to look at those in more detail and kind of figure out how those were built. If you're a Storyline user, I've got some source files and things as well. But even if you're not using any of the Articulate tools, if you go to the Examples tab, you'll see a bunch of different examples of things that people have done. While those were mostly done in Storyline, you could still do most of that in other tools. So it's just a matter of figuring out how your tool would work with that. So you've got those, and then anything else that I think of as we're talking, I'll throw that in there. So one of the challenges with video in the past was that video was really expensive, and so years ago you just couldn't produce video. And the other problem was, even if you had video, trying to deliver that over a network was not easy either. But a lot of that's changing, and so the ability to shoot video, most people have smartphones today, and it's amazing to me. I actually got my start in video production, and so I look at these smartphones today, and I think, man, for free, you can get so many apps that years ago cost tens of thousands of dollars to do comparable things. So we're all walking around with these media production tools in our pocket. So it's easy enough to shoot video, and then the tools, the authoring tools today, are a lot easier to use. So you don't have to be a video producer. You don't have to know everything about video production or the technology to produce viable videos. You've got a lot of good free video tools. I think in the Windows platform you've got Movie Maker, which is pretty decent to do some simple stuff. And you can even do some pretty nice video production in PowerPoint. And then of course you have these e-learning authoring tools as well.
Can you use a video from your phone?
Yeah, you can use. I'll actually show you a pretty cool video scenario that somebody built and shot in their phone. And I'll show you something. One of our salespeople, so he's not even, an e-learning person. We were doing workshops, and so he shot. He was sitting in the back, and there was the tea and coffee pots. So he did a little scenario. When people came back, he was shooting the video. Are they going to pick tea or are they going to pick coffee? So he shot this video on his phone, and then he built like a little like what are they going to choose kind of game. So I'll show you what he built, because it's again, it goes to the point I want to make here is that you have the capability today to do some pretty nice things with video that you didn't have. So I'll show you some examples of just things online somewhere, and then what we'll do is think about, well, how would I build that with the tools I have, and then I'll show you some examples where people have done that with the e-learning tools, and then we'll jump into one of the tools, and I'll be using Storyline, but again, while I'm using Storyline, the production process would be similar in other tools, so it's just a matter of what tool you're using and then figuring how it works. So I'll kind of show you how I go about doing it, but then you would just have to figure that out in your tool. So let's go ahead and actually look at a few examples. So here's one, and I always kind of think of different ways to use video in courses, right? In the e-learning course or the course environment. So you have generally, you just have the video, right? So you have your e-learning product. You can take your video, you insert it, and it just becomes part of the course. And for many cases, that's perfectly fine. And then you watch the video, and then it's part of the content that you consume. Some people will put the video and then a quiz, after that. So you've got your video, and then you answer some questions. So you add a little bit more interactivity to that. What we'll look at is, okay, well, how do I actually make it a little bit more interactive? And so with that, what we'll do is kind of, it's like, I always look at like 3 or 4 core things you can do. So there's kind of what I call the explore more. So I've got the video, and then I could watch the video, or I could pause the video and collect additional information. But what I want to do is I want to kind of combine the ability to pause and collect, or to maybe answer questions, or whatever it would be. But I want to combine that so I can add the interactive feature to the video and not have it after the video. So there's, like, I call it the explore more, so the ability to collect additional information, kind of like those old VHS, or not VHS, what's the video channel? They used to have the pop-up videos, and they'd have like additional information. And then you have kind of the assessment. So you have again, what's common is video, then quiz, but what if I can somehow provide the assessment or a quiz component in conjunction with the timeline of the video? So while I'm doing the video, I can ask you questions or get you to make decisions. So we'll look at that. Then there's what I call like a scavenger hunt, and the ability to put hotspots over the video, and then you could use that either to, click on something to collect more information. You can use that to also do an assessment. Like, one of the things we'll look at, I kind of mocked up last night, was I found a home safety video, and so you have to go and identify hazards in the home. So it's a great way to use that hotspot and then overlay it on top of the video. And then there's kind of the know the cast, or the interview type structure, which is what we see here on screen now, which we'll look at quickly. And that's a way to, again, in the past, using video and presenting video in an e-learning course was really problematic because of the time and size. But today that's not an issue, and so you could do something like this where, this one's the teens sharing the bullies. I'm going to drop this link in here, so if you wanted to watch it on your
quick question, since you mentioned time.
Yeah.
David asks, a great deal has been written regarding the declining attention span of millennials. What is the appropriate duration for a video in a virtual environment? Do you have any ideas on that?
I always kind of, I'm kind of somewhat skeptical sometimes of the, like the things about the attention span, because I think, my kids who are millennials, if they're interested in something, the attention span's there, right? My son can play video games forever, and, they could watch 3-hour movies if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, it's a combination of the content and how you motivate them, right? So how motivated are they to the content? I think, though, if you're talking about, video production, I think, and you'll see that in some of these examples, I think the quick clips, keeping it really short and to the point is better than long and drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
So, what works, like to gain attention span, you've got to be a good storyteller, right? You've got to have good production value and all that. So, if there's a comedian standing on stage for an hour, nobody complains. But if it's a boring person standing on stage or doing a webinar, or if it's a boring person standing on stage for an hour, then everybody's like, well, this could have been done in 5 minutes. So it's just, I think it's just a matter of, how the content is pulled together. But, as a ground rule, I would say, if I'm working with video, I try to keep them short and pointed. Well, and you'll see that in a lot of these examples.
It's kind of interesting because I think one of the things that is happening a lot, and you watch it with television video, is that every second there's a change in the camera angle. So I'm wondering if there's a relationship between high impact storytelling, you need less of that, but low impact storytelling, you need more of those, every second the scene changing that does something to your brain. I know there's a lot of studies out there where they're talking about how the brain is changing because of the way that we're changing the way that we produce videos.
Yeah, and that gets into where, you know, video and storytelling and crafting and really building great video-based, say, learning experiences. I mean, it is a skill that's required, right? It's not something you're not gonna go buy Storyline and take out your iPhone and all of a sudden build
exactly
Hollywood quality videos. But now, kind of transitioning back to these demos, what you can do though is you can find sites like this and some of these examples I'll show, and then they'll give you some inspiration. So these things have all been built by, you know, video experts and producers and all that. So you can look at those things, draw some inspiration, try to figure out how you do it with the tools that you have, and then do it, because you can do it with the tools. So it's just a matter of, you know, what are some ideas, and then where can I implement those ideas. So in this particular one, this would be, you know, this is they go through these kids being bullied, right? And so you've got these little video clips, and so they play the video, and I won't go through that, but you've got the link there. You can look at this. This could easily be a subject matter expert board, right? So instead of a slide, like let's say instead of this is, I don't know, let's say this is 20 slides or whatever, or what is that, about 16, 20? Yeah, I guess it's 20. So let's say this could be 20 slides. So instead of 20 slides with, you know, 5 bullet points, each slide could be its own little video. And so you could even get random people in your organization to relay the content of the slide, right? So you could have like a little video board. Or these could be interviews with subject matter experts, or, you know, interviews with customers, you know, identifying, you know, here's a product we sell, watch the 10 videos, and you determine which customer best matches to the product. Right.
I like how it's got the overlay with the text, so you could just roll over and kind of see and decide whether you want to listen to that based on the text.
Right, and that's an easy thing to do. We can actually, when we mock up some stuff, we can say, okay, I like this idea. How would I do that with the tools we have? So just remind me to do the overlay demo. We'll see, and it's actually pretty easy to do that. Essentially, this is just a rollover button, right? Just moving it over, and then when I click, they just have a video load up. So if you're a Storyline user, this would be just a mouse over. It's an image with the hover state. When you click on it, it opens up a layer or maybe a light box with the video in it. You could even do this in PowerPoint. Now you do lose the mouse over ability if you're using one of the conversion tools, but you could do this in PowerPoint where you can click, and that essentially goes to a slide that loads up the video, and then when I click this, it takes me back to that main slide. So even if you're working in PowerPoint, you could build this type of interview board or story wall or something like that. So and there would be a lot of great uses, right? You could interview people in the organization, you can interview customers, you can have case studies. You know, they could all be short videos. Now in this case, this would be a good example of where you'd want to have, you know, really short, pointed videos. You don't want drawn out interviews. I don't even know. Let's see what one of these videos. Yeah, so it's like 30 seconds, right? So this one is, and that's about 30 seconds. So this works, and again, small cut up pieces. Now here's one, and we actually did this as one of our weekly challenges in our community, is you had to do these interviews. So this is kind of funny. I'll put this in here. You can watch it later, again, in more detail here.
And I'll save all of these links and I'll put them in a follow-up email, so if you can't figure out how to open them up on your own desktop or copy and paste them to your own desktop, no worries. I'll send a follow-up email with all the links.
Yeah, and this one's a kind of neat one. We actually use this, David, who does our weekly challenges. So this is a great way, right? You have a person. So again, instead of slides, and then you go through the, you know, you've got your video, and then you can ask a question. So this is just like an e-learning course, right? So what do I need to know about the product? What do I need to know about workplace safety, right? I click, and I get a little, you know, video clip. Now he does different things. There's some humorous stuff in here as well. But then he goes through, and this is a great way to learn. And when we step away from what we see here, or we step away from the actual production here, and we think about, okay, I'm building this in my own course, what do we see? Let's go back here. What do we see on screen, right? We see a video, right? And then we see text that you can click on. That's easy enough to build. So and this video itself is pretty simple, right? It's just a guy sitting in a chair. Now, it's a famous guy sitting in a chair, so building it's easy. Hiring the actor is probably not as easy. But, you know, if this was your subject matter expert, or you wanted to present the perspective of a customer or a coworker, whatever it is, you are presenting this in a different way than just text on screen. But it really is no different than if this was 5 bullet points. The only difference is that he's sharing the 5 bullet points versus you having to read the 5 bullet points. So again, a nice thing that you could easily implement into your own e-learning courses. And if you go back to that workshop page, in some of the examples, let's see here, where did my buttons moved around, but on the home buttons, there's the weekly challenges, and then we have this video interviews. And so there's a whole series. You can see what people did in that challenge. So the challenge was to do something like this, to create an interview video format. And so what's neat about it is you can see probably 20 or 30 different ways that people approach that. And they all did it with, you know, with an e-learning tool. They didn't go out and hire big professional production teams. You know, they had their videos, they shot them, and then they put them on there.
Let me ask you this. Okay, we have a lot of people that are probably, in fact, raise your hand, how many people are doing webinars? Raise your hand if you're doing webinars at your office. 1, 2, 3, it looks like about a third to a half. Okay, thank you. I'm doing webinars too. This is a webinar. Can you do something with the files that are created if you're recording your webinars to make them interactive?
Yeah, I mean, when you have your webinar and you output it, it's going to be a video. When you think of the tools that you're using, video is just going to go on a screen, right? So in most of the e-learning tools out there, like we'll throw PowerPoint. You got PowerPoint, Storyline, Captivate, Lectora. Most of those are what we would call a free-form tool. So, and we'll see that when we play around with it. But they're free-form in the sense that you can put stuff on the screen or slide, and you can move them around. A form-based tool is kind of like a lot of the quizzing tools where you have an entry area, you add your content, and the tool kind of does everything for you. But most of the e-learning tools are free-form, or the big ones. And when you have that free-form environment, you can add objects to the screen. And a video is really no different than a shape. The only difference between the video and a shape is the video has that ability to play, and it's changing the frames, right? So it's really no different than putting a shape on the screen. So it's really at that point, it's like put the video on the screen and then figure out what you want to do. Now, if you're doing a webinar, what you might want to do is, because the webinar, depending again on how it's structured, you may want to overlay content. So you may not want to make it overly interactive, but you could overlay content to augment what's being done or said in the webinar. If you do want to make it interactive, you can add some interactive features to that. And I'll actually show you that video I mocked up last night. I took the video and I did it 5 different ways, so you can kind of see how to do that. So I'll show you how you could take a video that you have, which again, doesn't matter what the video is, but if it's a webinar, you could drop it on the screen, and then you can make it interactive. You can have some content over it, so that it allows you to augment what you're doing, or you can have some interactive features that allow you allows a learner to interact. With the webinar, it might be adding some assessment elements to it, or questions, thoughts, or whatever. You can have forms open up and they can type in and answer questions, or whatever you want to do. And then the other part, if you have existing content like a webinar, you'd probably need a way to cut that video up. Some of the tools allow you to cut it up, even if you didn't have a tool that did that. you can, one is you can go to PowerPoint and put the video in there and trim it and then output it, and it'll give you the cut up video. The other thing is you have Movie Maker or some of the other, I don't know what's on the Apple side of things, but you've got free or inexpensive tools to do some basic video editing as well. So if we go back to the examples, though, which is kind of the key thing here, is that when you find things, then the challenge is, how do I implement this in my course? So in this case, if you wanted to mimic this, you have a player. Most of the tools have a player. You put a video on one side, and you've got your questions, and it just kind of goes through. And then it just loads up and plays little videos. And again, these little clips are mini clips, so they load faster and a little bit more engaging. I think if they were long, drawn-out clips, you kind of lose part of that. Here's one that's kind of interesting. It was, you had these mayors, right? So this is, what do we see right here? Right now, this is just a bunch of images, right? So you have these candidates, and you can click on a candidate, and when you click on the candidate, it played a video. So this is kind of a neat effect, right? This could be, again, these could be, maybe it's your salespeople, it could be people in the organization, they could be customers. So you have pictures. So if we thought about, okay, how would I build this? Again, if we simplify it, what do we have? It's a white background, so this could be our slide. Text. These right here are just characters. These characters are just pictures, so they're just kind of pictures that are pulled together. And then they're kind of like little rollover buttons, so each picture could have its like a hover effect on it. And when I click the picture, essentially what it's doing is it's playing a video, and then it just grayed out or whited out these characters. So I could, if I was building this, let's say I was building this in Storyline, if I click this, I might just have a white box sitting over the background, so it wipes out these characters, so it kind of diminishes them, and then I just have the video on top. So this would be just again, it's a button that goes to a slide layer. So I click, and the slide layer just happens to have a video on it, and then this could just be a white box that's somewhat transparent sitting over the background. So the actual production of this, outside of getting your videos and getting the cutout videos, the actual production of this in an e-learning tool is very simple. It's just a button that just looks like a person, right? But it's a button that goes to a slide layer that plays a video. And I go to slide layer. When I'm done, I hit close, and it goes back to the main slide. Even if you did this in PowerPoint, you could do this in PowerPoint. Again, you don't get the rollover, but you could click the character. It takes you to another slide, plays the video. The close button is just a link to your first slide. So easy enough to build in PowerPoint. Easy, it's so. Again, the point is, you find these types of examples. I'll drop that link in here as well. When you find those examples, look at the tool that you have and try to figure out, okay, what's there? Because sometimes video seems overly complicated. But if you think of it as just an object, and how would I build this with the tool I have? If you're using PowerPoint, then each tool is going to have different features, and some of them have some constraints. Like PowerPoint, you lose some interactive capability. But being able to look at examples, it gives you ideas. You can shoot your own videos today, so that's easy enough to do. And I'll show you, we've got some coming up here where people have actually shot these with their cell phones and stuff, so you can kind of see the way the quality works. And you can do some pretty neat things. It's just a matter of, getting some inspiration. Here's one. This is a good example of something like this. Wrapped Media is one of those services that cost tens of thousands of dollars to get things produced. So they have this really cool demo, and it's kind of funny. I'll post it in here. Some of you may have seen this. It kind of made its way around the internet a couple years ago. But when you watch the video, you're kind of learning about their culture, right? Are you a fit for the company? So they have this kind of video. You see this really nice video. It's kind of the perspective of this guy going to an interview or working with the company. So he's got his coffee, right? Again, the video production is very nice here. That's why.
So they added that energy boost, right? And they're adding the Darren Morning Okay, so
Yeah,
they're
well,
taking
this is the produced video, but here's the interactive part. Now, you spilled coffee on this guy, and you
Oh.
have to determine, well, what do I do? So what is this? This is a multiple choice question, right? I'm just going to
Love
rub it in, right? So you rub it in, and
it.
the guy gets all ticked off,
Oh, that's great.
right? And then, okay, well, let's try it again. I'm just going to rewind it. Maybe I'll keep quiet. Let's see what happens. So it's fun, right? You got these quick videos. Now, obviously, there's a talent to script writing and all this stuff.
Yeah.
You go through. Now the guy comes back. He's all ticked off, right? So now you can try it again, right? So it rewinds it, and I'm going to tell him. So they kind of amplify the organization's values. Really cool video. So now let's transition to doing this with e-learning. So there's a company, Sponge, is an e-learning production company in London or in England. And what they did is they found this and they said, well, let's see if we can do this in Storyline. So they actually, let me see if I can find that here. So this is their version of it. Now this is just a mock-up, so it's not all completely complete or accurate. But they staged it like, okay, let's make it more like an e-learning course. So again, when we think of the production, all it is video shot with a handheld device, so probably with an iPhone or something. When we look at this, what is this? It's just an image. This is just a little call out, a circle. So the construction of it's pretty basic, right? A button. So we click on it, and then you go through. You'll get, your instructions and stuff. What type of manager are you? And then you've got this little video scenario. So you get your instructions, you've got your email, and then this right here is just a video clip, right? You can see it just when you listen to it on your own computer, you'll hear it. You've got the hollow ring of it. You don't have the high quality audio. They put a little fisheye lens or something on it, but it's basically a simple video. And then what is this? Just a multiple choice question. So you can, make a decision, and then you go through here, and then again, clips. It doesn't even have to be edited together well. I mean, that choppiness works for this. Real quick clips. This is a good one to kind of break down and see how they did it. And I'll show you. They even repeated the rewind segment here. So she's all upset. Apparently, you're not supposed to confront people at their desks. So we're going to try that again. Remember, the Deloitte option was to try again. So we're going to go ahead and try it again. And all they did is they rewound the video. But this is just the layer. So the construction of it is, let me pause this. The construction of it is a video is just an object on the screen. You have the video. Once the video plays, you have your quiz question. You click. That takes you, like if I was building this in Storyline, when I click, that would probably take me to a slide layer or maybe another slide. That launches a different video. When I want to replay it, I click and that takes me to a layer that just has a version of that video that rewinds quickly. And then when that completes, it just jumps back to the starting point. Very easy construction. Looks rich. It's a nice experience, which again I think is one of the cool things about working with video today is you can shoot this video. It works. When you watch this, you can, at your desk, when you watch this, it's not high quality in terms of the video production, but it's got a richness and there's an aesthetic engagement that is hard to get when you're just using static slides.
Right. So now just to confirm, Mark is asking, so you're putting the interaction into the timeline, correct?
Yeah, and I'll show you here in a few minutes a mock-up I did, because I found a video about where it was produced by some gas company on like home place issues, right? So you had to identify stuff. So I'll show you some of the basic production for that. But yeah, in this case, my guess is, I haven't seen their source file, but my guess is if we well, there's not a back button. That's the problem with this. So when you have a video on the screen, the only thing they're doing in terms of like the buttons are just on a layer on top of the video. This is just, you have the video, right? Or they
right.
went to an image, but this is just sitting on top. So if you think of your timeline, this is just on top of the video. And again, every tool is going to be a little bit different, but they generally work the same in terms of the ideas. So you'd have your timeline, and then you have your video on the bottom, and then you put your content on top. And then in this case, these choices are on top of that. And I'll show you the mock-up here, and I'll give you the source file too. I'll put that on the workshop. So that was a good example of something which I think, to me, is the key point, is you find something out in the wild, and you say, hey, this is really nice, but can I do that? Because it's great if it's nice, but if you can't do it, then it doesn't help, right? So how would I do this with the tool I have? So then that's where you got to step back and think about, what do we see on screen? Let's think of the video. Let's not get caught up in the quality of the video, because that's a whole different thing. But let's think about the video as an object, just an object on the screen. So what else do they have going on the screen? They've got text, they've got shapes. That's all just sitting on top of the video. They've got some decisions to make. They're just buttons that link somewhere. And then you can kind of mock up a process that's very similar. And again, in something like this, quick and pointed is better than 5-minute long clips, and they'll load a lot faster as well. Here's one I kind of mocked up. I had a Keurig brewer at home, and so it was easy for my son to fill it up while I videotaped him. But again, this is what I would call the explore more option. So the idea here is, I get my instructions. I want to learn about the video. So one is, and this is when you're thinking about your audience, some people already know the stuff and they don't need all the information. Some people are new and they might want additional information, or they might say, well, I'm not quite sure what this is. Then you can create breakpoints for them. So this is kind of how this works. So in this video, I'll drop this in here as well. In this video, you can see these little buttons come up. So I can watch the video and see the instructions. If I don't want to click on anything, that's fine. But let's say I'm not quite sure what that next step is, or I know there's a point where I need more information. I can click. It pauses the video. I can get my additional information, continue, and then it unpauses the video, and I can continue with it. So that's what I call it.
On a module like this, Diane's asking, how large would the file size be?
Well, this is what's interesting. Yesterday, when the video I'll show you here at the end that I was mocking up, the video, I believe, was about, I'm going to say 50 megabytes, but it might have been 35 or so. But let's say it was 50 megabytes. When I published it, and you'll see the published demo, each video went down to about 3.5 megs.
Oh.
So it's a pretty significant compression, and the video quality doesn't suffer too much. So, when you're working with the video and you're doing your production work, then you're going to have your full-size video. When you do your publishing, the video is going to be made small. And then all of the tools should have, or most of the tools, have some sort of like optimization scale. So you can go in there and you can make it, compress it really high or compress it really low. So what I would say is, if you're working with video in your organization, I would shoot video, right? And then I would, one is, you don't need HD quality video for e-learning, but you would shoot the video, and then I would, put the video on 2 slides, for example. And on one, or I would do 2 courses. So one, I would have the video with no compression, and the other one I'd have it with complete compression, or as small as I can get it. And then I would look at the image quality, because the default's usually fine, but if you do have bandwidth issues or whatever, you can always scale that down a little so the video gets a little bit more compressed. There is a little bit of degradation, but for the most part, it's not that noticeable. Now, this example here, this is a good example. This is a video quiz example. So here's, the first one was kind of the explore more. This is a video quiz example. In this case, we'll refresh the page here. And this is a demo. I think David has this in the community as well as a download. So he kind of showed you, again, kind of similar thing. Now, instead of the Keurig demo, this is going to give me a quiz. So this is a good example of something that would work with those webinars, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have stuff, you have some information, make a decision, submit, and then continue. And so it's a really nice video. It's just an object on the screen. I don't know if there's another button that comes up. But anyway, he's got that as a demo here, and I think he explains how to do that. But again, the construction is simple. It's video. The button is timed to come in at a certain point. You click on it. You get your quiz question that's just overlaid on the video. The video is paused. You make your decision. You hit submit. In this case, he's giving you feedback. So it's not really a graded question per se. And then you close it, and then you can kind of continue with your video. It's a great way, like, in this case, let's say you're presenting information, and you want to make sure they're actually following the data that you're presenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might have given some, like, this quarter sales, blah, 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 and this is the impact on the organization. And then you can stop them and say, hey, what was last quarter sales numbers? What's the greatest impact that has to whatever, right? And so there's all sorts of ways you can use that to kind of keep them engaged in the process. And again, not overbuilding it to where it's so cumbersome for them that they don't want. You don't want to put 20 quiz questions in there, but having like a couple of quick knowledge checks or something is probably a good way to go. This is that one here. This is the one Ian, our sales guy, did. And again, it's kind of more of a joke thing, but it's a good example. While he was kind of doing it as a gag, he's just sitting in the back of the room while I think David or I don't know who was presenting. And so he thought, I'm going to set up my camera, and then we'll see, are they going to grab tea or are they going to grab coffee? And so you choose a person, right? So he just shot these videos. So, and again, this guy's not an e-learning person. He did all this stuff on his own, which was actually kind of impressive to me because he even got the backgrounds cleaned out on the characters. So you got the video. Now is the person going to grab tea or coffee?
Coffee.
He's going to pause the video, so you got to make a decision, right? What's he going to grab?
He's going to grab coffee. He's staring that way.
We'll click on coffee. The thing is, you can't trust some of the Europeans.
Oh.
They look one way and then they grab the tea. I'm just kidding. So there you've got, he built this little assessment. So see, he's even got a little tracker in here. So he's using variables, which kind of, again, is impressive for
wow.
Do one more. So he's just shooting, But this is a good example. He's got the video, not high quality, but if you build the interaction right, you can make it engaging, right? I'll say tea. She didn't even go. She's getting rid of tea. So
there was no choice for nothing.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a good example of that. And let's see here. I thought one more here. Here's a good one. This is the hotspot. This is during the beta. One of our community members built this. This is, the demo I'm going to show here in a few minutes, we'll have this. So this is basically just a video. You have to identify your hazard. So if I click before, it says, okay, no hazard. I keep going, and then there's a door opens here, and then I identify it, and then I got my hazard. This is something, we were talking at a conference once, and so we said, well, how would I use this? And I was thinking, well, what if you walked through your workplace and you just walked through it, right? And then people, as they're watching the video, you could have them identify, safety issues. You can have them identify, people who aren't doing something right, if there's a production process. And essentially, it's just a video with a hotspot. And the hotspot's really just an invisible button. So when they click the hotspot, what do you want it to do? In this case, we're going to pause the video and give you feedback. But you could pause it. You don't have to pause the video. You can just collect information.
So
I'll show you.
All the tools have hotspots where you could do.
Yeah, most of them, and that's pretty standard in the e-learning world. When you think about the three big tools, so it's going to be Storyline, Captivate, Lectora, they should all have the hotspot capability. Now, this is one we shot. We were doing a workshop, so we went outside and just shot some video. Again, I think the video quality looks okay for this, and we were in Portland, so it's like find a Starbucks, and if you're in the Northwest, there's a Starbucks everywhere. So we just shot some video walking down the street, and then you'd have to make a decision. And again, it's just the video is just shot on an iPhone. So this could be like a scenario structure, right? Make a decision, and instead of having a bunch of text and slides, you have video. Now I would probably speed this up a little, but we just shot it to kind of prove the point. So which direction should you go? So you just go choose, and then that just goes from one slide to another slide, or from one layer to another layer. Let me see here. This is a good example. This one David's wife did. It's really nice. So it's another kind of quizzing example. So let's say you're TSA agent or whatever. You've got to go through here. So one is I can watch the video and not click. If I do click, I get a quiz question, right? Answer the quiz question, submit. I get my feedback and continue. Now this isn't graded, so what I thought that she did was pretty cool here is what if I did want to grade it? She actually did the same thing but used the lightbox effect. So the lightbox essentially pulls a slide into the slide, so you can grade the slide. So this is actually a separate slide. The other way, we are actually going to a layer, so it's a little harder to grade. This way, this is actually a grade. This is a quiz question that we could bring in on top of the slide. And so that's actually graded, and then you can go. Same effect, but different purposes. This is maybe just for content, and the lightbox is a great way to integrate that. Now here, what we'll do here is let me go to Storyline, and I'll show you some stuff I mocked up just to show you how easy it really is to do this. Let me switch over. Let me answer a couple questions if...
Yeah, we did have one question from earlier when you were showing the interviews, and this could be a question for the audience too. Thank you, Mark. When doing interviews, is it really best to have it scripted or simply let the interviewee give their personal touch? Example, for a new or potential employee, what do you think about the company? How do you like your job? What's the one piece of advice you would give, etc.? Of course, you would want a positive spin on the content. So any thoughts on scripting and responses? Yeah.
When I've got this thing here, so I'll drop in. This is one of the challenges David ran, and they have some good video interviews in there, so you can see some of them are scripted and some aren't. Let me go back to Storyline here. When we used to do video, I would always tell people, you want to have an outline at a minimum. So you have your outline, you have your questions. You'll get a feel for people because some people are really natural, and I would just tell them repeat the question. So if I say, what's your favorite color? Don't just say green. So you'd start with, my favorite color is green. So this way you have a good place to cut, and edit the video. The challenge, you do need planning, right? So having a script is good. The challenge is once the camera's on, that some people just don't do well once they know the camera's on. It just depends. Some people use, and I think Tim Slade has a demo in the community where he shows how he uses the teleprompter. I don't have the link handy, but I'll put that on the workshop page because he has a nice instruction that he did somewhere where he shows how he uses a teleprompter to do the interview. So he just uses an iPad, and then he's got it mounted to like a little stand, and then the person could sit and they look at the iPad and it's eye level, and so you can't really tell as easily that they're reading. You do need to rehearse it, right? Because if you're just reading, it sounds like you're reading. So it's just, again, each person's a little bit different. I don't know if that answers your questions or if I sounded like a politician going in 20 directions.
That's all right.
It's a political season.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, because it seems like if you're going to be doing good interactive video e-learning, you already have to be good at storyline, the developing the scenarios and the storyline and the scripting and all of that. And it's like, where do you go to get that kind of education? outside of, you know, going to movie making school. I mean, does lynda.com have anything like that? I'm wondering.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, you have to learn. I mean, it's all its own career, right? Video's its own career. But I think, you know, if we step back from all that, you're in an e-learning world. I think if you can script your course content and you can keep it conversational, and then you can video that in quick bursts, that's easy to manage. Let me go show you real quick a couple things just when you talk about interactivity. And I always do this in my workshops, just kind of a quick demo. Now I'm using Storyline, so if you're not a Storyline user, I'm not going to go through all the nuances of the tool, but you know, essentially the tools, whether it's Captivate, Storyline, Lectora, they should all be able to output similarly. It's just the production is going to be different. So generally, when you talk about interactivity, you kind of have three core types of interaction: a click interaction, a mouse over, and like a drag drop interaction. So I'll show you. I just mocked up something real quick. So I want to create, like, I want to ask her a question. I want to get an answer. So I can click, get the answer. Here I can mouse over and get the answer, right? And then here I can I have an audio file, so I drag the microphone and get the answer, right? So when you talk about building interactive elements on your e-learning, on top of the video, then you kind of are limited to three types. You know, that's the core type of interactivity. You're clicking, mouse over, or dragging. So let me show you some video examples. So in this one, this is just a video inserted on a slide. So it's just what it is. You insert the video, they watch it, that's it. And that's easy enough to do. You just go to Insert, you choose Video, and you're good to go. Now in this second one, what I did here is I took the video and I did like a video overlay. So I've got my video on the timeline, and then just on top of the video, I'll have little overlays. So we'll just look at. So these are the overlaid elements. I have little safety tips, and you'll see if we look at the timeline, you'll see here they're just on the timeline. So they come in at different points on the timeline. So I have them set up to come in and then go off. So we'll just preview. This scene real quick, and I can show you. So there's a few different ways. Let's see here. So this is just video, right? So I can just watch video, but I can't really interact with it. This here is video. I'm not interacting, but I can, as a course author, I can augment what I've done. So I'll click ahead. So I'm going to identify hazards. So in this one, I'm showing hazards, and I've overlaid content on top of the video. So again, I'm not a big video producer, but now I've got a video, and I can start to add content on top of the video, so I can, you know, augment what I've got. So you can see how that works. Now this next one, what we do is we're going to do the explore more. So I'm going to kind of similar thing, but the only thing is I want to give you more information. So if let's say you're seasoned. This is compliance training. You're seasoned. You know all this stuff, so you just want to watch the new video, right? So I put a little icon on the side that's going to come to identify core issues. But I can watch the video and ignore that. But let's say I'm new and I want to know, okay, what are they identifying? I wasn't familiar with that particular hazard. I can click. It pauses the video, get my information. But okay, I got it. Now I'm going to continue. It unpauses the video, and I continue from that. So now I'm adding that interactive capability, right? And I'm allowing the user to interact with the content. Yeah. And again, you could structure a quiz question that way as well. Now here's one where I created a hotspot. You have to identify the hotspots, and with the hotspots, you're going to get immediate feedback. So we click through this, and I've got this link here I'll put on the workshop page. So here's a hazard. Yep, I get some feedback, right? I can click. Let's see. I'm going to click now. Well, there's no hazard. Right, I'm just guessing. Let's try real hazards. So go through here. So now I've taken what was a video and made it into something interactive, right? They've got to start doing some processing, right, and thinking, right? Now this last one I did is it's delayed feedback. So I use variables Same video, right? So you've got to identify the hazards. You can only get 3 wrong guesses. So I've got a little leaderboard up here, right, to tell you how many incorrect and correct. So if I just start clicking, you can see I've already got 1, click again. My second one, I click again. Oops. Third one, you got to start over. Now I got to start over, and all the variables are cleared out. Let me click ahead here, and you'll see how it's going to track down. In this case, I'm not giving you immediate feedback other than that. So we've got the icy walkway. You can see it went through, and I'm tracking it. So here, nope, I'm going to keep going. So same video. The production process is essentially the same on every single one of those. I have a video. If we look at it, we have a video on my base layer, and then I just have objects on top of it. Now I put cue points. I put cue points to kind of track where I wanted to put them, and then I just have objects that kind of come in, and then they go off at certain points. When I wanted to do the explore more, I put the icons off to the side, so they weren't interviewing the view, and the only difference is the icons are timed in to come in the same way the overlays were. The only difference is when I click on this, it goes to a slide layer that has my information. The production of this is really simple. It's basically a button that goes to the video, pauses the video, and then or goes to the slide layer, pauses it. When I click this, it just closes the layer, so you can see just hide the layer. And then the hotspot kind of works the same way. Now these are a bunch of hotspots stacked on top of each other, but the hotspots kind of work the same way. I've got one big hotspot here, that's my incorrect, and then I've got my correct hotspots that sit on top of that hotspot. So when that hotspot's not visible, it's always going to be incorrect, and when it is available, they'll be able to click on the correct spot. And again, it does the same thing. It gives me feedback, so it just jumps to a layer. So same structure for every single one of them. This one's a little different because I'm using variables and all that. It's a little bit more complex. I'll make the source file available, and then I've got that workshop page. But that's essentially it. I mean, the key thing is find some examples that you like, right? We've got all those ones on the links there. Look at the tool that you have and then figure out, hey, can I do this with the tool? Shoot some video. When you look at those demos in more detail, you'll see it's really not, the video production doesn't have to be as high quality as, you know, a Hollywood production.
Right.
And you can do some pretty neat things. And then when you're working with the tool, the video is just an object. So it's just a matter of, you know, what interactive capabilities do I have with the tool that I have, and then how do I work with the video object to expose, you know, content. Because essentially you're clicking or mousing over or doing something, but it's video, and then they do an action, and it's going to expose content. So it's just how do you want to expose that?
Right, right. Tom, thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise. In a 1-hour webinar, you're not going to become an expert in developing interactive video, but what I love about Tom's presentation today is just giving you ideas on what's possible. And now we've shared a lot of resources. I'll gather all these links and share those with you. Tom did say that he would stay after I stopped the recording for a few more questions, so let me go ahead and thank Tom on behalf of SITE for this session. I'll stop the recording.